Imagine this for a moment. You're lying in bed while your partner rests beside you. The room is quiet, the lights are out, everything feels completely normal, yet for almost all of human history, a moment like this simply wasn't possible. There were no private bedrooms, no doors to close behind you, no walls separating one person from another. Instead, you shared your nights with family members and dozens of others sleeping only a few feet away. Which raises an interesting question. How did our ancestors experience privacy? The simple answer is that they rarely did. The real answer, however, is far more fascinating. For nearly 300,000 years, humans lived in small communities of roughly 15 to 50 people. Life was deeply communal. The people around you weren't simply neighbors or companions. They were your relatives, your allies, your protection, and often your entire world. And they were always nearby. Hunter-gatherer camps offered almost no physical separation. There were no private rooms and very little personal space. People slept together for warmth. They shared meals around the same fire. Nearly every part of daily life was experienced together. If you argued with someone, everyone noticed. If you celebrated something, everyone knew. And if two people wanted a little time alone, the rest of the group usually understood that as well. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have discovered several recurring ways people handled this challenge. The first was timing. Most intimate moments happened after dark, when the camp had settled down and people were asleep or pretending to be asleep. The second strategy was distance. People didn't need to travel far. In fact, going too far from camp could be dangerous. Beyond the glow of the fire, predators waited in the darkness. It was social. Everyone understood what was happening. A modern camping trip. You're sharing a small tent with family or friends. Someone needs a moment of privacy to change clothes. You don't stare. You don't make comments. You simply look away. That's essentially how ancient humans handled privacy. They created invisible boundaries through shared social rules. Certain things were acknowledged without ever being discussed. People knew, but they pretended not to know. Anthropologist Colin Turnbull spent years living among the Mbuti people of Central Africa. One observation stood out. Their language had no direct word for privacy, not because they lacked sophistication, but because the desire to be completely alone was not an important part of daily life. Now let's talk about something everyone eventually wonders about. The bathroom situation. Ancient humans didn't have toilets. They didn't have bathrooms or outhouses either. When nature called, people simply walked away from camp. Most groups had areas that were commonly used for this purpose. Often these places were located downwind from where people lived and slept. You would take care of what you needed to do and then return to the group. By modern standards, it wasn't truly private. It's not all that different from the way modern people use public restrooms. There are other people nearby. You know they're there, and they know you're there. You can hear them, they can hear you. That's the power of social rules. Now let's turn to another part of daily life: sleep. Ancient humans slept in groups, not because they preferred it, because they needed to. At night, the world became a much more dangerous place. Temperatures dropped. Predators became active. And the fire needed constant attention. Sleeping close together offered something incredibly valuable. At a site known as Ohala II in present-day Israel, researchers found evidence of shelters built around 23,000 years ago. These shelters were small, barely large enough for a family to lie down together. Personal space was almost non-existent. People slept shoulder to shoulder. Every movement affected someone else. Rolling over during the night probably meant bumping into another person. And this wasn't unusual. Humans lived this way for tens of thousands of years. So, when did privacy begin to take the form we recognize today? The answer begins with agriculture. Around 10,000 years ago, humans started farming. For the first time, large numbers of people stopped moving from place to place. They began settling in one location. And that changed everything. A farming life required permanent structures. Permanent structures required walls. And walls created something humans had rarely experienced before: separation. For the first time in history, people could step inside a space and shut others out. They could close a door. They could create a room that others couldn't easily see into. Then an interesting question emerges. What if ancient people didn't crave privacy the way we do today? Psychologist Erich Fromm offered a fascinating perspective. He argued that the desire for privacy is closely connected to individualism. In societies where identity is tied to the group, being alone can feel uncomfortable, sometimes even unnatural. For ancient humans, belonging mattered more than separation. The group was not just part of life. Today, however, we face the opposite problem. For the first time in history, millions of people spend much of their lives separated from others. So what was privacy for our ancestors? Not locked doors, not empty rooms, not complete isolation. It was a shared understanding, a silent agreement between people, a way of creating invisible boundaries without physical walls, through timing, through distance, and through mutual respect. Then agriculture changed everything. We built houses, we built walls, we built private rooms. And eventually we built a world where being alone became normal. For nearly 300,000 years, humans were rarely alone. Then we invented walls. And perhaps without realizing it, we also invented loneliness.